Okay, so you want some UFO secrets? I don't do this very often, but I'm going to confirm with firsthand knowledge a story that you can now read about publicly. If you don't know who this guy is, you need to find out. We can start with my little debrief here. His name is Chris Bledsoe. He's a very successful contractor and builder in the Carolinas. He owned his own company. He was very successful, had a lot of money, did not need to create any extra notoriety or money for himself. In 2007, Chris had an encounter with a UFO near his home in North Carolina, where he reports he was taken on board, taken to a specific location, shared a lot of information with him regarding stuff that he was supposed to share with humanity, and then he was returned back home safely. Now, shortly after he started sharing the information that he was given, his life turned upside down. His community and even his own family started to ridicule him. He lost his successful business, lost his home, his kids were being picked on at school, and a lot of tragedies befell him and his family. But regardless, he kept telling his story as he had promised to do. Now, word of his tale caught hold in the UFO community, where he got a lot of attention from curious UFO buffs. Numerous government agents and agencies started knocking on his door, and even MUFON seemed to want to provide support for Chris by setting up a documentary to discuss his encounter. He was sent a contract just like the one I received in the fall from a Discovery Channel producer. Now, something you guys need to know is that there are more intelligence agents in the UFO community than there are people who are actually UFO community folks. So when the production company sent Chris the contract, he saw it as an amazing opportunity to get his story out as he promised to do. But then they sent the camera crew to his house, sprung a bunch of surprises on him, and basically produced a hit piece trying to discredit his entire story, not sharing anything that he wanted to share. And regardless of this overt sabotage, he kept telling his story in talks that he was giving in person-to-person communications. And government agents kept coming around his house to ask a bunch of questions, some of whom who were really friendly and some of whom who weren't, making death threats against his family if he didn't quit talking. Long story short, the nice ones won out. They seemed to believe his stories, took him into mission control at NASA to watch a rocket launch, which just doesn't happen if you're a civilian. That's a tough ticket to get. They invited him to a closed-door session of Congress where he was able to relate his tale personally to your representatives. Did you hear about that? I didn't hear about that. They invited him to parties where he got to meet some very high-ranking intelligence officials, including the deputy director of the Central Intelligence Agency. That's another tough ticket to get. After which, his government-connected friends got him a ghostwriter to help him write a book, which was now just published a couple of weeks ago, called UFO of God. You need to read this book because it tells part of his story and spills some secrets. Now, I get absolutely nothing with this. I've never met Chris Bledsoe. I'm not connected to his book in any way. But speaking from firsthand knowledge where I may or may not be connected with the same conscious entity that Chris mentions in his book, I will tell you what he writes in that book is not bullshit. Listen, you guys know that I reached out through consciousness and got a UFO flyby within about 60 seconds in front of two highly credible United States Navy SEALs. We talked about it publicly on the podcast with the SEALs and the internet. Connections through consciousness are real. One thing that I do wish is that Chris would have delivered more of the message. Because by his own account, when he appeared on his son's podcast called Bledsoe Said So, he openly admits that he did not share 90% of what was shared with him to share with the public. But give him a break. He's just getting started and he still has time. And what he is telling you already is gold. And he is still in contact with his consciousness that educated him the first time around. He posts videos on his Shadow Band IG account because orbs are showing up at his house regularly, and he still has regular contact with government agents because his contact is genuine. Now, is it a coincidence that his buddy-buddy relationships with government agents aligned with his withholding 90% of the tale that he could tell? I don't know. That's not for me to say, and the rest of his story is not mine to tell. But what he does share in UFO of God is amazing. It's super well written, and the consciousness that he interfaced with is not a figment of his imagination or a made-up story. That I will tell you flat out. Follow him on social media, message him up. Maybe he'll give up the information that he hasn't given up yet regarding the amazing videos that he hasn't released and the other part of the tale. But absolutely do not discount his story. So I really enjoyed it. I give it 5 stars. Maybe you will too. I don't know. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Peace.